So should I call you Daniel for this, or should I call you something else?
Well, my handle Anachronist is kind of a mouthful, so I think Daniel's good. Honestly, when I first picked my handle, I didn't think I was going to be doing much with it. And then all of a sudden, I got really active in the scene. I was like, well, shit. Anachronist
Yeah.
it is.
Question number one is, why did you get into BBSing?
Well, back in the 90s as a teenager, I used to go on BBSs. And it was a lot of fun. Everything was cool and mysterious. Just being online and talking to people that you didn't know, that was still a very new thing. And everyone had these edgy handles, and it was just a lot of fun, And then, time went on, and the internet meteor struck. BBSs started disappearing, and then I started using internet browsers, getting more and more powerful PCs, left my Amiga behind. I mean, really. And then at some point, I didn't even realize it, but going online in the computer, it turned into a tool. It turned it into a means to do something. And it lost that edge, and I didn't even realize it. And I got older, and I started thinking back to my days with the Amiga, going onto BBSs, and it's like, what? I missed that. I missed that feeling. I missed that fun. I wonder if they're still around. So I went online to see if they're out there, and holy cow, there were still BBSs. I figured they'd all disappeared, but no, they were still there. And not only that, but you no longer had to have a phone line modem to connect. You could do so with Telnet, because almost all of the classic systems have moved on to Telnet, which means that we can connect with our normal PC as long as we have an internet connection. So I went online and found a couple of BBSs, called in, and I was lucky that my first ones were some very good BBSs. Alka Holiday was one that I ran into. Black Flag, the Sysop is Hawk Hubbard. Those are both outstanding boards, and I was blown away by the art, how cool everything was. I had some Sysop chats like you and I had the other night, and it brought me right back, man. It brought me right back to how I felt when I was that age. I mean, you could
How
open the
old were
person
you
was
at the
almost.
time?
I mean, from when I was like 14 till I guess around 17 or so, when I really started edging out of it. And it just brought me right back, and it was such a different, feeling from being on web forums or Facebook or whatever. And so I stuck around. I called it a little more, started calling other boards, and then I started to get to know some of the people, Like we just sit there and chat about all kinds of things, started playing the games again. And I just loved it so much. I thought to myself, I'm going to get an Amiga again.
So
Damn, they got expensive. They got, well, I have a bunch of Amigas now, but I didn't have one at the time. When I was a teenager, I was an idiot and got rid of it. I wish I hadn't done that. But so I got an Amiga back, and then I decided I was going to follow my teenage dream of being a Sysop again. Because for those of you that weren't around back in the 90s going to BBSs, if you were a Sysop, you're like a little god. Sysops were the man, To have your own BBS was just a big thing. And I thought it'd be really cool. I mean, that's the same reason I got into arcade machines, I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to have one of these things? So I got the Amiga, and then I was like, okay, what do I need to do to make my own board? I looked at some different software, and then I found one called Amiga CNET. And I was very fortunate because Amiga CNET is still being developed. It's still being actively maintained, new versions coming out on that retro hardware. I reached out to the maintainer, K-Guide, whose real name is Dan Fitzgerald. He runs Storm's Edge software. And he hooked me up with a copy, and there it was. It was like my own erector set or an old car to work on. But yeah, so I started working on it. I was like, man, this board looks terrible. Looks like crap. I need art. I was like, well, where do I go for art? I mean, I knew some people, but I didn't know them like that. And I wanted a very particular kind of art. Since I was running an Amiga BBS, I wanted Amiga artwork. For some of the viewers who are new to BBSs or haven't been in it in a while, there's pretty much two kinds. There is block style, or code page 437, ANSI. That's what you're used to. It has like a blocky style of graphics, but can be very, very good looking. And then there's the Amiga style, which is in the font called Topaz. And that's what my board uses. You'll notice that the forward and backslashes, line up properly, etc. There are very few of those kind of artists around. Very, very few. So basically, I figured I was going to have to do it myself. And I was never good at art in particular. And I got into it, and I was really good at it. It shocked the crap out of me.
Yeah, I mean,
how?
The thing
is,
I can't draw a stick man to save myself. So how did you get good?
I'm the same way. I've never been able to draw anything. Even my handwriting is crap, you know? And so I always just thought to myself, I believed my entire life that I had no artistic talent. Turns out what I needed was a keyboard. Who knew?
Who knew?
You know what it's like? It's like in the movie The Matrix, and Neo wakes up and he's like, I know Kung Fu. Except for me, it was like I woke up and I was like, I know basket weaving.
I
It's
know
a random
topaz.
thing. Yeah, it was bizarre. But yeah, so it turns out I was really good at it, and I fell in love with it. So I started drawing more and more, and then I started getting some attention for it. Ended up joining a group called Impure, and it just kind of went from there. Started teaching myself how to program, just to program this old Amiga language called AREX. Started making my own software, own interface, and it's just been a blast.
So you've written your own doors as well in the
Yeah,
Rex?
quite a few. Yeah, not only do I write my own doors and mods, but I also release them for the community. So you'll see them on other Amiga boards, and now you'll see some of mine on PC and Linux boards as well. I recently released one called Corona Tracker,
Yeah.
and it basically tracks the COVID-19 outbreak, and it updates live from an API every hour, so you can see all the statistics. But yeah, I wrote a couple games. It's been a lot of fun.
Does it make the Corona tracker? Does it take API calls from like the Johns Hopkins stuff, or how does it work?
Exactly. No, it's calling out to an API via curl or get, and then I'm parsing the data, and then I have my own AREX program that takes that parses the data, puts it into a grid, and then dynamically inserts my artwork into it, then hosts it on my server, and then I wrote a Python script that I distributed to other boards, since Python is pretty much system agnostic, and so their boards will actually just call my server, the Absinthe server, grab the pre-made ANSI file and display it on their board.
It's awesome. I mean, I've seen the door itself, and for those of you who don't know what doors are, basically they're just mini applications in a BBS, I guess. Tell me about what got you into BBSing in the first place. So go back when you were like 14 or 13 or whatever age you were.
Right.
Why did you actually get into BBSing?
Well, a buddy of mine named John Shaw had his own BBS at the time, and he would always post when the next party's going to be. So we would go onto the board, we'd all talk and figure out, we'd organize our parties, etc. I mean, because you didn't have all this multi-way calling back then. We didn't have, instant messaging. So this was the way to connect, So we would just get on the board, talk to our friends, and then we'd go meet up in real life. So it was a part of the social fabric at the time.
So how did you find out about BBSs though?
Man, everyone knew about it. It was the 90s. Well, if you were into tech, if you owned a computer and you did anything with it, then you knew about BBSs, because that was the internet of that age. Back then we barely had AOL, and AOL sucked.
Yep.
It was terrible, and it sucked. And then even after it was dead, we kept getting CDs in the mail for years. It was a real thing.
They were good.
But yeah, I mean, also it was the main way to get software. It's not like we had tons of game stores everywhere. I mean, you did, but okay, let's be real. The pirates were on the boards, man. Okay, so if you want a software and you don't want to pay for it because you were a broke ass teenager, you got your ass on a BBS.
Yeah,
That's just the truth.
I remember the way that I found out about BBSs was simply because there was an ad in the back of the PC format magazine at the time. I was like, what the hell is this? What's a BBS? But I had a modem, and this is real vague recollection stuff, but I had a modem, I think it was called Terminate. It was a terminal emulator for DOS.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, actually.
And then I just figured out, and then somehow the AT commands became really easy for me. I don't know why, but yeah, it was like ATDT, and then off I go, and it's just it's amazing the things that you recall from your youth, and they're like crystal clear. But now if somebody tries to tell me about doing this and that in CSS or JavaScript or something like that, there's no way I'm going to remember it 10 years from now, far less 10 minutes from now. So it's very strange.
It just doesn't make much of an impact. Well, that's because what you were doing at the time, it was fun. It wasn't work. You were having a good time doing it. That's why it sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. You're totally spot on there. So I guess you got into it because it was a lot of fun. You were 13, 14 years old, pretty formative. If I was new to BBSing today, maybe even if I was 13 or 14, or maybe even older, what would you do, or what would you say to convince me to get into it?
Well, if you're 13 or 14, go outside. Go get on a BBS. Okay, stay far away. Then come back when you're a little older and you had a lot of fun. What would I say to someone wanting to get into today? Come for the community, honestly. I mean, when I was looking up BBSs to see if they were still out there, I had this image of these, like, old last man standing, man on the mountains with 6-foot beards, kind of image. But then, and there are those guys out there. Don't let me fool you. But then when I got into it, I found this awesome community of artists, coders, and just misfits. They were just doing cool stuff. They were hip. They were doing edgy things. It wasn't this old musty environment I thought it was. It was really exciting. A lot of the artists that are in the text art scene are also graphic designers. They do this work professionally. They're illustrators. So some of the coders, work on games. But the community is what really is a draw. And the reason why is because it's a small community. There are not a lot of us out there, so everyone ends up knowing everyone, which is really cool. So you can form like real relationships, and it's not like the internet where everyone is just screaming and vying for attention and doing clickbait on Facebook. If someone starts a conversation with you in the BBS world, you're going to have a conversation. And also, due to its nature, people tend to be more polite, but also you have much more of an eclectic group. You have people of all walks of life. So going on to BBSs and meeting people and get involved in the community, you're going to get outside your comfort zone a bit, because you're going to talk to people of different religions. You're going to talk to conservatives. You're going to talk to liberals. You're going to talk to all these different people. And since they're all forced to be in this little ass scene that we have, you end up being polite and actually talking to each other, and that's something that's really cool. And I think it's missing from the internet right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I logged on to your BBS probably, I don't know, about a week ago, and I logged on once, checked it out, did a recording for a previous video I did on YouTube, and then logged on again just to check it out and check my messages, bring back some more memories and so forth. And then immediately, I started writing you out an email telling you I was going to do this video. And then we got into, you broke out. I remember breaking out, and you got into a Sysop chat with me.
You saw that big skull come on the screen. Like, what the hell is this? Isn't that cool?
Do you know what a moment, for a moment though, it was like, what the hell's happened? Something's broken. And then I realized, this is Sysop chat. So it was great. Straight away, I got that feeling, of nostalgia. And then you just started talking away to me. And, there's nothing like that on the internet. You can't just sort of like take over somebody's screen unless you're like doing it illegitimately, I guess, doing a hacking, right? You're there and you're talking to a person in real time. And the computer that I was on was a 1981 PCXT or 1985 or whatever it was. Cool. Right? And then you're on an Amiga, A1200 or something.
A1200, yeah.
Right. So
yeah, and that's what's funny is, like, whenever I have callers come to my board who weren't on BBSs back in the 90s, they don't know how they work. So there was this one kid, I'm guessing he was a kid, that was on my board, and he kept screwing up some part of the interface. And so I figured I'd pop over to the screen and help him out. So I popped up, looked at his screen, and I was like, "There, let me get that for you." And the whole screen just stopped. Then he was like, "Can you see me?" And I was like, "Yeah." Boop! Dropped carrier right then. Just got the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, welcome to the BBS world, kid."
Yeah, absolutely. So on your board, when I was in the other day, you mentioned that there are 2 or 3 types of BBS users, especially today. Can you explain what they were or are?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the first kind are, I guess, guys like I was and that you are, guys that interfaced with it back in the day when it was popular, and wanted that feeling of nostalgia, wanted to get back something that they were missing, and just wanted to see if it was still around. So I get a lot of those guys, that they get a little older and remember having a good time with it in their youth, and they just kind of want to either A, they'll want to relive it, or B, they want to get back into it again. They're burnt out on the internet, and they just want to go back to a time when things were better. And I think a lot of things play into that, and somehow it ends up in a BBS. The second kind would be people that were usually too young to have experienced BBSs back in the 90s or even early 2000s. And there might be retro gamers or in the retro hardware. That's a big scene right now. I mean, the retro scene is huge. You know, you have pixel art, retro computers, retro games. And so in this intersectionality that happens, they become aware of BBSs and they go, what the hell is this? And then they pop in and they're blown away. They had no idea this was out there, you know? If they go to a good board, if they go to a crap board, then they're like, okay, this is BS, and they get out. So come to Absinthe. It's my board, Ross.
I was going to ask you right at the end to give the hard sell on Absinthe.
Oh, so. I will, baby. Don't worry. Don't worry. I will do that.
I will make sure you give it.
Yeah, but so you have the kids, you know, come in and they're looking around. They're like, oh wow, and it's all so new to them, you know, and it's such a way of interfacing with the internet, interfacing with other people that's completely alien to what's out there right now. So they're just running around like a kid in a candy store, you know, if they have an appreciation for that type of thing. But if they ended up at my BBS, then they're into it to begin with. You don't you don't accidentally stumble into a BBS, you know, you meant to go there. So the third kind are just lamers. I'm not even gonna talk about them. They're just lame people. So. Well, yeah, the two main kind are people that were into it back in the day for nostalgia, and the second would be new kids who are just curious and want to know what it is.
Well, I know I don't want to talk about lamers, but tilting the shift slightly from lamers to troublemakers. Now, all the time that I've ever been knowledgeable about BBSs, there have always been troublemakers. But could you maybe expand on what you think the troublemakers are, the troublemakers that you might have seen on your BBS? And, you know, have they been, some of them could be up to really nefarious things versus some of them could be just little tricksters. What sort of troublemakers have you seen?
Well, first, we're all troublemakers. But, okay, yeah. So, I mean, you'll have the run-of-the-mill lamers, you know, basically guys that just, are idiots, man. They just want to get onto your board, post a bunch of dumb crap all over your wall. You know, they're just idiots. There's idiots. Like the guy at the bar that won't shut up, but he's on your board. So those kids, they're just in there just to cause some havoc. You know, they just want to go in there. It's like graffiti. They just want to go in. They just want to graffiti your whole place. So you got those guys. Fortunately, there aren't a whole lot of them because otherwise, I mean, what are you really doing? You know, the second kind would be guys that want to steal your artwork or steal your code. You know who I'm talking about there, guys. So they'll take your art and either copy your style or copy what you do, or they'll take your stuff and put it on their board. Or they'll look at a program, you know, that you're releasing, a program you made, copy everything about it. Just people that are leeches on creativity. But you have that in any scene where there's creativity and innovation, you're going to have those kind of people. So we have them too. That's really about it. I mean, while there are those troublemakers and those lamers that are out there, to be honest with you, they're not that many. Since it's a small community and everyone knows each other, you get weeded out pretty quickly. On and everybody hates you, you're not going to stay logged on. We did have one unfortunate case recently where a guy was scamming money out of everyone. He was making up stories and getting money and promising work, and he did it from so many people. Finally, I kicked the guy out of our message network, kicked him out of our group, and he's banned everywhere. You know, Agent 37, you're a lamer, man. You're a lamer. There you go. I'll just call his ass out right now.
So that's another thing, right? His name's Agent.
You owe me $40, man. Not you, that guy.
So his name is Agent 37, right? And this is the thing with
Agent 037, yeah. Yep.
Right. So that's the thing about BBSs, I guess, that we should probably make clear for all of the people who haven't yet used the BBS, who are watching this and figuring out what the hell it's all about. Everybody on a BBS has a handle. Now, when you're in a chat room, a handle's probably, you know, you go in, you have a persona, right? But when you're on a BBS, your handle stays with you. So tell me a bit about handles. What does that mean to you?
Well, a handle is your call sign. It's like an alias. I mean, you see handles from the BBS era still used today in things like forums. When you sign up, you'll have your real name that you register as, and you have your handle. But your handle is going to be the same. Is going to be the same across board. So if you have, you know, Like one guy's called Zero Cool, who's on my board. He's going to be Zero Cool everywhere. Well,
Yeah.
actually, he's probably not, because there are a lot of guys named Zero Cool
Zero
from the
cool.
Hackers movie. Yeah, there's a lot of guys named that. But I mean, it really is your identity. It's how people identify you. So if you pick a stupid handle, you're going to look stupid for the rest of your BBSing days. So
Yeah,
think
you
long.
can't.
And if I had to go back in time, I like Anachronist. I like my name. It's cool. But if I had to go back, I would pick something shorter. So watch out.
Yeah. All right. So next question then. What's your favorite BBS door or technology?
That's a big question. Door or technology?
You could do both.
I think I'll do both. Man, this is going to look bad, but my favorite door is one that I wrote, which is terrible. But it's a Korean War RPG called Sky Raiders. There's really nothing out there like it. Right now, it's only on my board. I look forward to putting it on an Amiga server eventually. But I spent a year and a half putting thousands of hours into it, and it's so fun. I play it all the time. And usually, I don't play something I made because I know it all. My second favorite would be, there's a new game called Darkness 2.0, written by a guy named Jack Flash, and it's fantastic. If you remember, you probably remember this. There used to be a game called Legend of the Red Dragon, or Lord, and it was ubiquitous. Every board had to have it, or you weren't even a board. It was really addictive. So he based his game Darkness 2.0 on that play style, but he took it to the next level. Got together some great artists, and he's a great artist too. And I've just really been having a blast with it. He did a really bang up job with it. I thought it was fantastic. As far as technology, anything that is accomplishing a modern task with a retro interface, I really love, and is one of the things I love about the entire BBS scene. So now with the advent of APIs becoming available, retro computers, as long as they have an internet connection, can accomplish things they could never accomplished back in the day with their native hardware. I mean, you have them pulling in data from these supercomputers from the cloud, and then all they have to do is parse it out and display it, or provide the user interface. So I mean, you're sitting there getting RSS feeds from a Commodore 64. It's just a really, really wild time. So I love anything that's just new and edgy, and shows a cooler retro way of accomplishing things that we do in modern times. So for those of you that haven't listened to Absinthe Radio yet, and I'm sure he'll give you the link, listen to it. It's awesome. I have an artificial intelligence that is the virtual host. So he'll actually read things like my last callers, what's been said on my wall, scene news, because it's directly being fed from my BBS. So it's completely linked together. What I'm doing is I'm using a particular type of API, which is cutting edge voice API. The Amiga is sending out information in a certain, that's parsed in a certain manner to it. It's creating the actual audio. The Amiga grabs it again, puts it all into a streaming format, and pushes it out to. It's some crazy shit, y'all. It's some crazy shit.
Honestly, guys, I implore you to go in and check this out. So it's not you're not when you turn it into the BBS, you're going to see links to it. But you need to use like sort of a streaming media player, like I guess like Winamp or VLC or something like that.
VLC is honestly the best, and they can use VLC on their phone as well. You can pop it on Android. You can use a Windows Media Player as well if you have to, but VLC is the best.
And honestly, check this out. Absolutely check this out. The fact when you start it up, you're hearing statistics and information that is, I guess, directly coming from your BBS. When I first
there's no separation. Like literally, the program is part of my BBS that's running.
It's absolutely crazy.
Because with AREX, I've pretty much customized my entire board. I'm actually programming around parts of the software. So it is completely integrated. It's really cool. I'll have guys come and post things on the wall just so they can hear it on the radio the next day.
It's awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was totally out there. Never heard or never seen anything like that. So it's awesome to see, I guess, people having such devotion to enhancing the technology, which is, here's a BBS. This is what a BBS is known for, and then expanding that into new areas. I guess new horizons, if you wanted to be cheesy about it. But it's certainly a hybrid of technologies. My next question was actually, how about internet and BBSs? Should the two intertwine, and if so, how. So I guess you kind of answered that already, but do you have anything further?
I can expand on it. Yeah. So the first, that which is, clear from our previous conversation, is that it already has merged. The internet and BBSs are really drawing closer and closer, because now, because of APIs, internet technology, we can pull so much data from the net. We can pull things like RSS, live news feeds, social media. We interact with Twitter. There's so many cool things that we can already grab from the internet, and that makes it possible to make these cool new mods, cool new doors. We have inner BBS gaming now. So I think it's a really wonderful thing, and it's opened up a lot of new avenues. And plus, we needed to, because no one's breaking out a telephone modem, although I think that's really cool. I think it's really cool, but no one's doing it. I do think that we need to be cautious, because as we advance, with our BBS technology, because BBS software is being actively developed, and some guys are messing with having a wider display or more colors, and I think we have to be very careful when we get close to the line of browser and BBS, because if we start doing things like displaying full color images, streaming tons of audio, at what point do you just become an inferior web browser?
Absolutely. Gotcha. 100%.
And also, I think that we need to stay true to our roots. We need to stay true to the things that really, made us what we are. One of those things is text art. Text art is the lifeblood of BBSs. It brings us, a unique appearance. It keeps the art world engaged with us, because otherwise the artist could just go do anything, But with text art, that really keeps the community, engaged. It gives us a unique look, and it keeps the interface clean. We don't have pop-ups. No pop-ups, okay? No weird cookies, no ads coming at you. None of that stuff. Fortunately, since Linux, is so popular right now, those guys love the command line. Those guys love text interfaces, and I think that's keeping a lot of the energy going in the scene as well. A lot of those guys are coming over to BBSs because they spend all day looking at text anyway.
So that's right. When you say there's a lot of people spending a lot of time, certainly I spend, my life pretty much at the command line on a Linux box.
Right.
I mean, I've been a Linux sysadmin too many years to count, but I guess you're saying that people are spending a lot of time on these things, right? So it's an investment in time when you're running your own BBS.
Oh yeah. If you're running a good one, it's a ton of time.
So people who have motivations on the internet to create websites and videos and all sorts of different things, a lot of them do it just for the love of it, right? But then there's other people who are more motivated by a bit of the love for it and then a bit of money, and then finally, I guess there's a final camp, which is I'm just.
If you're looking for money, you want to stay far away from BBSs. You're not going to make any money in BBS lands.
So it's not. It's not earned you a dime all this time. Is that right to say?
No, I mean, if time is money, then I'm going broke from having a BBS. It will suck away your time, especially, it will suck away your time. But it's fun. I mean, it's like working on a classic car. It's just like that. So you add a little bit here and there, you do more art for it or program something new, or if you don't, I don't want people to get the idea that you have to be an artist or a programmer to get into it. There are guys that are releasing, new programs, new apps all the time. A lot of us artists are looking for art requests that say, hey, give us something to draw, man. We'll come out, we'll do some art for your board. So you can just be interested in running a board and definitely do it. That's for sure.
So if you're not an artist then, but you've decided you've got you've been bitten by it and you really want to run your own BBS and become.
Yeah, come on in, man. Yeah, come on. And absolutely. There's a lot to be said for a well put together BBS, because there are tons of guys who just get on, they install, some BBS software, they slap some crap art up there and they call it a day. Mm-hmm. But when someone's put some time into it, has a nice layout, they've reached out to some of the top artists. They made sure that they have a lot of features. Everything runs smoothly. They're writing messages and responding to the message boards. That love for what they're doing comes through, and people will call. People will come back. There's a lot to be said for it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll do a couple plugs. So if you're looking for some cool boards to call, The number one group is called ArachNet, and ArachNet is it's a network of hackers, artists, coders, sysops, and this has a really, really cool culture. We're always doing new stuff. If you call any ArachNet board, you're calling one of the best boards in the scene. It's something that's invitation only. You know, people can't say, "Hey, man, let me be part of ArachNet." We say, "No, you can't."
An exclusive club. Another question I meant to ask you, sorry, was if you were an aspiring sysop and you wanted to get in and you wanted to choose a particular piece of software, and say perhaps you weren't quite into the retro computer scene, so you wanted to get some modern BBS software.
Man, you are going to get me in trouble. You're going to get me in trouble here because I'm friends with a couple guys who make. They're going to be like, "Daniel, why didn't you plug my software, bro? Why do you plug my software?" Okay, I'll name a couple. Okay, there are two different ways of looking at it. If you want the easiest, painless way to get into it, the best software out there is called Mystic. Mystic BBS makes it so easy during the install process. Make some clicks, make a couple choices, and you have a BBS. And from there, you can do a lot with customizing it. You can really go crazy. It really takes a lot of the pain out of it. That being said, there are a crap ton of Mystic boards out there. I mean, a crap ton. If you're going on BBS, it's probably Mystic. And a bunch of Synchronet boards as well. Synchronet is also a great software package, but it's really popular. So you want to be careful that you're not just making something that's a clone. You know, there's only a certain amount of callers out there. This is still a very small scene right now. We're having a resurgence, but still very small. So you need something unique to draw people in. So if you look like everyone else, they're not going to go to you. They're going to go to someone else. So maybe look for some software that's off the beaten path. There's a software package called Enigma 1/2 that's really cool. New Schooler is the guy that codes that. He's always adding new features. The guy is really creative. We think alike in a couple different ways. We even came up with some of the same ideas at the same time, and we kind of looked at each other. But he's doing really great stuff with Enigma. So check it out. There are not a ton of those boards out there, so it would set you apart. There's a new software package called Legacy X coming out. It is not retro at all. I mean, it is really, they're doing some newer stuff with it. So if you want to experiment on the bleeding edge and you don't care about things like keeping a traditional terminal width, etc., you want to use more colors, check out Legacy X. If you are an Amiga user, as you should be, then you want to check out Amiga CNET. Amiga CNET has a really devoted fan base. We're constantly working on it. The maintainer K-Guide the guy's fantastic. He's actually the co-sysop of my board. So if you look for co-sysop, you'll see K-Guide right there. So I'm blessed because that guy, if it wasn't for him, there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't be able to figure out how to do. But if you have an Amiga, then I would definitely recommend CNET. I mean, it's the most feature-rich board software out there. And if you come to Absinthe, you'll see what can be done with it. You know, you can really go crazy with it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most feature-rich BBSs that I've seen. And I guess I went on a few, fortunately, like you said earlier on, I went on a few BBSs. I guess I just looked at the Telnet BBS list and looked at all the boards that kind of looked nice with the ANSI, and that's pretty much all I did. But I thought, you know, if this board has got decent looking ANSI, then there's a good chance that the board's actually got something good on it. You know, it's worthwhile.
Exactly, and that goes back to what I'm saying, that text art really is the lifeblood of a board. It sets you apart. You know, when you have great, unique-looking text art, it makes people want to come to your board. And, I mean, if you have top artists drawing for your board, you probably have a well-put-together board, you know, and it shows they put some care into it.
So what software do you use on the Amiga, and what software would you use on the PC or Linux box if you were going to use?
Software to draw?
Yeah.
I'm going to sorry, Amiga guys. I don't use an Amiga to draw the art. I can't do it. Yeah. The tools that we had for drawing art, they just haven't been updated since the 90s. So I have to make some sacrifices. So I use what's called Pablo Draw, and almost all of us use Pablo Draw. It's been around for a while. It's really versatile. So you can draw in, you know, the IBM CodePage 437 block style, which is more popular. But also for Amiga artists, we can draw in Topaz. And we have mouse control, you know, which is nice. You can cut and paste. But you still do need to sit there and type it out, you know. Okay, if I really wanted to, I could draw an Amiga program, but I'm in Pablo. I'll tell you. There is a new one called Mobius that came out recently, and it's really cool. It's doing some unique, different things. It's a different take on it. So I did recently draw on a live server and drew some art with Mobius, and it was really cool. So those are the two main pieces of software that are in the game right now.
Nice, cool. I'll look into both of those. Right. So you're getting me all excited about this. I mean, I feel like I should go off and make my own BBS again, but
do it, man. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
it's probably a labor of love that I don't have the time for. Like everything else, I've got projects stacked up a million lines high.
It is definitely a time sink. I mean, I own a small business, and then I've been going to acting school for years. And honestly, this BBSing has taken a lot of my time out of it. So watch out. I probably should have done this when I was older. So just be aware of how much time you're going to put into it. But also for new sysops, you have to be aware that just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come to it immediately. It's going to take time, and sometimes it can feel like you're toiling in obscurity. You know, I mean, when I first opened Absinthe, it took a while till I even started getting one call a day. You know, but you just gotta stay true to it, keep working on it, and do it for the love of doing it. And if you love doing it, people will come and they'll check it out, but just be patient with it. It takes time. Oh, and also be patient with my new user process, because while my board is pretty advanced and cool, my new user process is like 1989 and it is pure hell. I apologize. It's going to get updated. But if you power through that god awful new user interface, it'll be worth it.
I did. And it certainly was.
Man. That's why we're having this conversation. I was like, okay.
Indeed. All right. And so how many users are you getting at the moment with the whole lockdown stuff? You get quite a few a day?
Relatively, yeah. I mean, I would say that right now, Absinthe is, if you're looking at it a calls per day or calls per week, I'm probably tied for second place for the most popular in the world. Tied with, I'd say Black Flag. Black Flag's been around a lot longer than I have, but I've been looking at their call amounts, so we're about the same. It's a fantastic BBS. The Sysop, actually has the guy has 6 or 7 boards. It's crazy, but they're all good. The number one board as far as calls per day, I would say, is probably Bottomless Abyss. The Sysop Stack Fault does a great job. He's really involved with the hacker crowd, the Linux crowd, and puts on some conventions. So he has a good user base. But I would average right now somewhere between 10 and 30 calls per day. It just depends. So some days I could get 8 calls. One day I could get 30 calls. Another day I'll get 15. But that's right. Or I guess if you did a hard average, it would be 16 calls a day. For a BBS, that's a ton.
That's a lot of calls. Yeah.
But awesome. I'm hoping that I was going to wait until after I updated that new user process, but I think after I do some more advertising and let people know this is out there, let them know about the new games, the new software, the people that are in it. It'll really blow up.
Totally. Well, I guess what you should do now, as we're nearing the end, is take a moment and give me your, this is Daniel Kelly, and give your board a plug.
Okay, yeah, great. So Absinthe, it's running on Amiga 1200. It has kick-ass new games, new software. It has functionality that is not seen on any other board because I write all original programs for it. You'll find all kinds of cool stuff there, from being able to track safety alerts for every country, Absinthe Maps, which is basically like Google Maps, but it's Absinthe Maps. Tons of new stuff. I have internet browsers. I just have crazy stuff on there, absolutely crazy stuff. There are secrets in the board that you can find. You can run into little adventures that pop up. I have hundreds of graphical avatars, so you can pick out what you actually want to look like. So it's a text art, might be anything from Freddy Krueger to Knight Rider. You never know what's going to be in there. It's directly linked to Absinthe Radio, so some of your activity that you do online, you might hear a radio blurb about it. I have a massive file list, everything from, I have somewhere over 50,000 files, and no crap either, from classic Amiga files to newer PC stuff. I'm not a pirate board, though, so go to BitTorrent if you're looking for that stuff. There's just all kinds of cool stuff, so if you're interested in going to a BBS, I mean, you can't go wrong with Absinthe. I've worked very hard to make sure that it has a whole lot of cool stuff.
Absolutely, totally agree with that part. All right. Well, I guess we should wrap up now. But is there any sort of parting comments you'd like to give the viewers?
Well, first I'm going to give some shout outs. I want to give a shout out to everyone at RackNet. Shout out to Phenom. Shout out to Impure, Legacy Crew. All you guys are awesome. CNET, Amiga community, Amiga users in general. For the audience, I mean, if you're watching this, then you're probably already curious about it. You want to see what the buzz is. Step number one, get a capable terminal. Go out and get Syncterm. Go out and get Syncterm so that the boards look correctly. Otherwise, they won't look right. If you're on an Amiga, get Term 4.8. I mean, if you're on an older, like a retro computer and you don't have a choice, come on anyway. Come on anyway, you know. But just, you know, go in, get involved in the message boards. You know, you might log on and be like, you know, I don't want to see what the big deal is. Well, you got to talk to people, you know. Get in the message board, make some comments, start a chat with someone, and you'll be interested in who you run into. You know, I mean, I've met some really cool people, and I've met some crazy people doing this. Believe me, when you're the Sysop of a BBS, you get some interesting characters calling you at 3 a.m. for chats as well.
Oh yeah, I remember that. You get people calling you up, and then you get this crazy tone, and then you're getting paged, and it's 3 a.m. And it basically, for me, it became my life. I was the Sysop of a board, and I was about 14 years old, and sort of ran it for about 3 or 4 years before.
That's a long time, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, you know, vague parts of it are in my memory. I can't remember much of it, but I do remember people paging me at 2 or 3 in the morning, and that was the way I lived for a long, long time. So I was.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, well, you're better than me. I can't remember any of my 20s, and in most of my early 30s, can't remember a bit of it. But you know, there was one other question that you were going to ask me about. You kind of sent me some of the questions, and you asked me, could I explain the difference in feel, in words, the difference in feel between BBSing and the internet. And I wanted to share, when I first got started, there was this older Sysop who was, you know, kind of showing me some things. And I remember the Sysop, he explained to me the difference perfectly. And he said that going on the internet is like walking into a raging party where everyone's yelling. Going to a BBS is like visiting a man's living room. And it's the truth. You know, going to a BBS is like being invited into a man's home. Going to a BBS is like a raging party where everyone wants attention. I think that really sums it up.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Actually, I've never really thought about it like that, but that does sum it up perfectly. So definitely a lot of happy memories. So yeah, that's a great way to sum it all up. An old man's living room. I guess most of us
right
are
on.
old men.
We're getting there. Yeah. Well, Al, I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast to talk about something that I really get a kick out of.
Thanks very much, Daniel. I really appreciate it. Make sure you get on to Absinthe BBS if you haven't already. It's a great board. Thanks so much, Daniel. Take care.
Thanks, man. You too.
Cheers.
Bye.
See you. Bye.